Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org for more info, or you can always email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com. And on the line with us today, we have Reverend Robert C. Cook. We're going to be discussing his wonderful book, Miracles in El Salvador, A Minister's Journey for Justice and Hope. Available for purchase through Amazon, barnesandnoble.com. But people, listen, if you want to gather everything that Robert has in store, well, do yourself a favor and head directly to his personal site. And that's miraclesinelsalvador.com. There you'll find more information on Robert, more information on this fantastic book, as well as find hyperlinks set up to take you to the purchasing page. So one more time, that's miraclesinelsalvador.com. And I will say, Robert was brought to our network, People of Distinction, by some of the best publishers in the business, Diamond Media Press Publishing. So if you have a book, or anybody you know has a book that they want moved, well, do yourself a favor and contact Diamond Media to move it for you. You can find out more information on them and their fantastic company at diamondmediapressco.com. And listen, people, it is an absolute pleasure to have Robert here on the line. Now, right there in the title, Miracles in El Salvador, A Minister's Journey for Justice and Hope, you have an idea of what we're going to be discussing today. But once you go to his Amazon and Barnes & Noble page, or even his personal site, miraclesinelsalvador.com, it's going to further solidify what you're thinking. Now, this is a memoir, okay? It's a memoir of Robert's experience in his time in El Salvador, and specifically with regards to the poverty that he experienced there. Now, certain things that you hear during this interview, and especially when you pick up the book, may be hard to swallow, may be hard to recognize, but listen, this is why I'm looking forward to this book, people, is when you hear the story that Robert is going to articulate to us. The way that I choose to look at it is everything's about perception, right? You all know I've mentioned this a number of times in the past. Perception equates to everything because your perception will create your reality. So when we're talking about his experience, the way I'm going to look at it is, first and foremost, how lucky I am that I am in a different situation. So I'm going to take pride in where I am. I'm going to also be very thankful for the circumstances that I find myself in, but also the words of wisdom that he's going to be able to relay. You may not be able to connect to everything that he'll discuss in the book, but I promise you there are going to be messages you're going to be able to take and you're going to be able to implement into your day-to-day lives, and it's going to make all the difference. I promise you that. And Robert's the expert. He's pulling from his experience and his time there in El Salvador. He's written the book, and he's going to be able to articulate everything much better than I ever could. So without further ado, let's bring him here on the line with us. Robert, first and foremost, welcome to People of Distinction, and thank you very much for being a guest. How are you, man?
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Absolutely. Robert, we're very much looking forward to this. And we're looking forward to all the words of wisdom that we're going to be able to take from you. Now, before we go into the book, now I know the book is a memoir, so we're going to go over your personal experiences as well. But I want to cover your background outside of your time in El Salvador. So start by telling our listening audience a little bit more about yourself and your background, please.
I'm an ordained Presbyterian pastor. I've been ordained 49 years. I spent a good amount of time as an inner city ministry in Des Moines, Iowa. That ministry focused on hunger, homelessness, and prisons. I established a hospitality house for men who came out of prison, who had no place to live when they came out and ultimately would go back to prison because of the situation they were in. And I come from a poverty background myself. So poverty always has been a little piece of my ministry, a little piece of my life.
Let's jump right into the book, Miracles in El Salvador, A Minister's Journey for Justice and Hope. Tell us a little bit more about your book.
Okay, I never intended to travel to El Salvador. It happened because I was writing promotional materials for a hunger offering, and I thought I need to go to El Salvador to see what poverty in developing countries really is. And that's what got me to El Salvador in the first place. That first trip to El Salvador immersed me into a situation not only of poverty, but of death squad activity, the death of Monsignor Romero while he was saying Mass, the killing of the 6 Jesuit priests and 2 women, their housekeeper and her daughter, by death squads, because they would have the audacity of talking about the need for land reform or people having jobs or the needs of human beings. And it was a very violent situation that I found myself in. And frankly, I was a little bit scared and certainly homesick. That's what got me there.
Wow. Robert, talk to us about inspiration, okay? Now, it's clear to see through your background and what you've articulated why this is important to you, why this particular matter means something to you. Now, this could have very easily have been a book that you wrote and you kept on your personal shelf, but you didn't do that, Robert. You put the book out for the public to be able to partake in as well. I'm curious, what were you seeing about the words you were putting on the page that made you feel like this could be beneficial to your readers?
Benji, there's truth to finding the terrible situation of poverty that people in El Salvador and a lot of other countries live. People had to know, to read about the pain, that poverty that brings silent sobs in the night. That there's no place to go because you're trapped in it. And people need to know that not only that poverty exists, but some of the policies of the U.S. government that provided money to military and death squads, the training at Fort Benning in Georgia, help produce that poverty and keep people under the thumb. Mm-hmm. Benji, the pain that I saw when I visited, I went to a what they call a canton, dirt for home community, and I want to tell you that they received me, they respected me so much that I had come to visit them. And I saw children with distended stomachs because of malnutrition. A little girl whose jaw was swollen like a softball because she had an abscessed tooth, and no way that they were going to be able to deal with that. There's no dentist available. A man who had cut his leg with a machete, wide open, and they were trying to close that up with a t-shirt. It wasn't dirty, but a t-shirt, trying to close that up so that it could heal. That kind of medical need and that kind of sickness, it just breaks the heart.
Absolutely.
And one of the things about poverty, there and other places I gotta mention, is I'm scared of the dark. Excuse me, but I am. And when they blew out the candles at night in the home that I was staying, there were 4 of us in that home, rats in the rafters above my head, I thought to myself, it was sort of a prayer, if I ever had the resources to take care of that situation, to provide solar electricity for those poor people that had no light in the dark, I would do it. Mm-hmm. And of course, the upshot of that is I had the opportunity 4 years ago, and that's what I'm doing. And for a Legacy of Light, a solar electrification project, that's part of the book, chapter 14.
People, again, we're here on the line with Reverend Robert C. Cook. We're discussing his wonderful book, Miracles in El Salvador, A Minister's Journey for Justice and Hope. Available for purchase through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or directly through his site, miraclesinelsalvador.com. Robert, next question that I'd love to get into, man. Who is your intended audience? And what are you hoping to see them do or take from your book?
Anyone who wants to read it, of course, but the faith community that is interested in peace and justice for the world, people having a just life and food for the table, and politicians who indiscriminately send money under the guise of providing protection, and it so often is used as by the military to keep their thumb on the people of the country, especially the poor. So I would say anyone wants to read it, but those two populations, anyone, the faith community and politicians, have to have a heart to read what I saw, what I have printed, because well, there were some scary moments and certainly heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm. What would you say was a highlight for you in writing this book, Robert? Or if not a highlight, maybe something that surprised you that you weren't anticipating prior to embarking upon the journey?
A lot of that this stems from my first trip. And what surprised me was the depth of poverty, the awfulness of it. It just broke my heart to see children standing at stoplights begging for money. Children, 6 years old, without an adult, or mothers with their baby in arms begging for money, or the snatching of food by the hungry in outdoor restaurants. The other thing I want to mention is that first trip I took, and a couple subsequent trips, the revolution was going on. There was a war going on, and that adds to the dynamic of the oppression that goes on.
Listen, not everybody lives in El Salvador. Not everybody is going to be visiting El Salvador, but we want to raise our awareness to what is happening around the world. I mean, listen, there's a lot of poverty that's happening here in the country, and we need to raise our awareness too. So this is all connected. I absolutely love what you're doing here, Robert. What's next for you, man? What's on the horizon? Is there a sequel to this book? Do you have another book that you're in the process of writing? Talk to us about what's upcoming.
You know, I don't have another book on the horizon. I have considered writing a book about the years that I lived with prisoners in that hospitality house I mentioned, the Hanson House of Hospitality. I had some experiences there that would be another story. Unfortunately, I don't know that I have the energy to do that. I'm going to retire tomorrow, or Sunday. This coming Sunday is my last Sunday at the churches I've been serving the last 5.5 years. And from there, I will move to Des Moines to the Catholic worker community. And then the 10th of July, I board a plane for El Salvador so that I can reconnect with some people I love there and check on the solar project and on some families that I have supported that have their own story of violence and poverty that I've tried to mitigate for them.
Fantastic, man. That's incredible. Safe travels on that, Robert. Last question here for you, man. Seeing that I'm an artist myself, I love having artists here on the network that I can utilize words of wisdom that they may have to really pay it forward, in a sense, to other artists listening in. Now, Robert, you are someone that has been through the process. You've written your own narrative, but you didn't end there. You've also gotten the book published, and anybody that's been through the process understands writing the book is only half the battle. So I want to take this opportunity for any new writers out there listening in. Robert, what are some words of wisdom that you can relate to them?
Follow your heart. Do what you. Let me just say, the reason I wrote the book was I had delegations come to the mission that I did for 6 years, and one delegation told me that it was so impressive I should write a book. Well, my ego got in the way for the next delegation who asked me what I was going to do. And I said, maybe I'll write a book. And one of the people, the last person getting on the bus to go home, gave me an envelope with $1,000 and said, buy a computer to write the book. Listen to the spirit and to the people around you that maybe you have a story, maybe you have something that needs to be told, and maybe you're going to set yourself up to write a book. Well, I finally did, with the help of my good friend Doug Maven, who was my editor. Mm-hmm. Get a good editor, I guess, would be another thing to say.
Very important. Very important. What I love so much is that we've barely scratched the surface. I mean, we've covered so much information already, and yet there's still so much left to be discovered. You know where you have to go. I'm going to say it for you once more. I know I don't have to, but I'm just going to re-impress it. We're here on the line with Reverend Robert C. Cook. We finished discussing his amazing book, Miracles in El Salvador, A Minister's Journey for Justice and Hope, available for purchase through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or directly through his site, miraclesinelsalvador.com. Head on over there, pick up your copies today. Raise your awareness to what is happening not only here in the States, but around the world. I love what you're doing here, Robert. Listen, man, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you once again for being a guest with us on People of Distinction.
I thank you, Benji. Everyone may call you Benji, Mr. Cole. Of course. It really fills my heart that you gave me this.